In Paladins, Frontliners is a class that's referred to by the community as two separate roles, which are point tanks and off tanks. This is kind of sad that the game doesn't tell you which of these works as a point tank and which do work only as off tanks. So let's just go ahead and introduce you to the roster. You've got Barik and Inara, the two point tanks in the game. Inara is currently better than Barik because he recently got a nerf to his amazing sustain, and now Inara's time alive, the amount of time that people take to kill her, is what's making her better than him. Barik's just gonna die to any stun or any CC really. It's just not that sustainable to be playing Barik anymore, even if you do have some good loadouts like these three right here. Okay, even if you're playing against Cripple, you do have a loadout for it, but still, Barik isn't that sustainable anymore. His damage is still great, but still, you don't want to be picking Barik if Inara is open. Now, the third point tank in the game, well, it's not exactly a point tank, but can work as a point tank. That's Terminus. Okay, he's great against like Vivian and Dredge, for example. So basically what he does is negate those champions from doing any damage on the point. They have to change their playstyle or else they'll be feeding his siphon, and the siphon will deal around 1500 damage when you're playing decimation. I don't know the numbers exactly, but still he can work as a point tank or an off tank. Okay, it's just that him being a melee champion, the only one in the game really, kind of stops him from working that greatly at long distance. You need your enemies to be dumb enough, which is kind of the case in most of the games anyway. Well, they need to be dumb enough to be shooting you and feeding your siphon. That's how you do damage with Terminus. Now, let's just go ahead and say this. Some players think that Ashe can point tank. This is not the case, okay? Even if you run a maximum Fortress Breaker build, maximum shield cooldown reduction, that's still not going to work, because all that Ashe can do is get that free 3% capture charge percent per knockback. That's all Ashe can do on the point. She's not gonna be dealing amazing amounts of damage. She only deals 400, okay? So basically, stop thinking that you can have Ashe as a point tank. It might work, but it's really better off that you put someone else on the point, like Inara or Barik, for example, or even Terminus. Now, the other tanks will not fare well enough as point tanks. Maybe Half-Shell Makoa can fare a little bit, since he can keep the shield on the point. The only one that's gonna be contesting him and shooting him and damaging him is the enemy point tank. Anyone else is just gonna be feeding his resets. So yeah, you can now sort of play Half-Shell Makoa. Let me just show you the loadout. It's this one. You have to have Barrier Reef at 5 and Carapace at 5. More on that later. This can allow you to play on the point, but still you don't want to be doing that. That's not the way that the game works. Now, let's just go ahead and say this. The other point tanks, I mean, not point tanks, the other tanks, the ones other than Terminus, Inara and Barik, are off tanks. Even Terminus can work as an off tank, and he's good at it, actually. He makes so much space for whomever is behind him. Now, the others are off tanks. And what do off tanks do? Well, please don't go on the point if you're an off tank, okay? I'll be explaining something later that requires you to go on point, but not right now. Keep in mind, you need to stay away from the point. Your job as an off tank is to make space for your damage dealer. For example, on Khan, well, you have this talent, Vortex Grip. You're gonna be stunning someone, and then that someone is gonna be stunned for 3 seconds, not 2. There's a 1 second lockout animation that's related to the base ability Commander's Grab, not the talent. So this is 3 seconds. It also says additional, just so you would know. Now this is queued up to be nerfed and become 1 second on the talent, okay? And I'm gonna be explaining when you run this later down the line, sometimes. Now, let's go ahead and say this. Lower elo players think that Raum is unkillable. That's only because they don't buy Cauterize. More on that later. And Raum is never a good idea to be first picking. He's the third best off tank. The first is Khan, the second is Ashe. Okay? Except on Terminus maps where he becomes like ban Khan and get Terminus if you want to win. That's like on Ice Mines, for example. Okay? Now, of course, the enemy team is gonna ban Terminus if you ban Khan anyway. So be careful about that. Now, why is Raum such a bad tank when you're at higher elo and playing him wrong without a good loadout? Now, a good loadout looks like this. Just gonna edit this like this. This is good. Okay? This is the best way to be playing Raum no matter what. Okay, more on that later. But still, you really need to understand, you can't 1v1 nearly any damage champion as Raum, well, not the main ones anyway, that do pose a problem and require Raum to be running around in the backline. Not only are gonna be countered by whatever support there is, except maybe Ying, she can't CC you or stop you, the others can. Okay, maybe not Pip too, but really, Damba, he's gonna reload on you and you're just gonna stop dashing. Grover, he doesn't even need deep roots to counter you. Genos, he doesn't need Power of the Cosmum to counter you, he's just gonna lift you. Don't go 1v1 or 1v2 with Raum, okay? You're just gonna be an ult battery. Every time an enemy hits you, they build up their ultimate. You're just gonna get your team killed. That's all you're gonna be doing on Raum. We'll be talking more about Raum in a little bit once we get into the shooting range and showing you what the loadout that I have for him does. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Atlas. Stay away from Atlas for the time being if you're new to the game. All that Atlas does on a new player is make the game 4 on your side and 6 on the enemy team, because 1, a new player is going to be saving an enemy by using setback, and 2, a new player is gonna get their team to lose the fight, the point fight, or the push because they banished an enemy while that enemy was on the point or the payload. Stay away from Atlas for the time being. Just don't even think about him. He doesn't have the insane damage he used to do unless you deal a headshot every time, and that's slow. It's like 1.4 seconds between each shot. That's slow for 1k damage. That's half what a damage champion does, and it requires you to do a headshot, okay, after having to track that enemy for 1.4 seconds, okay? It's not really that hard, and if you time it correctly, you don't even need to wait the full time and land a couple of headshots that are fast, but still easier to land and not as punishing if you miss. It's just that you're not gonna get the benefit of a card which is called, I think, Hellhunter. When it comes to Fernando, you are the flank bully, literally. You bully flankers. Okay, not all of them. The only exceptions are Androxus and Maeve, who can just fly over you and then just shoot you anyway. You even bully Moji. You know, she can't do anything against shields. She's not gonna stack magic marks on your shields. She can't do anything about Fernando other than run away and find a better spot to be attacking from. Okay, so basically, Fernando bullies flankers. And he has amazing self-sustain. Okay, he's just a little bit behind Inara on how much amazingly long he can live. Plus, his ult is a game changer. It can win you the defense or win you the push. And on Fernando, it's actually arguable that you don't need to save your ult if you can save your entire team and kill the enemy team to get the push. Okay? Keep in mind that he charges his ult relatively fast, okay? Don't just save it if you can win the push. That's kind of sad if you just leave a potential push open. I mean, you missed that chance just because you wanted to save the ult, okay? More on that later. Now, Ashe. Ashe is currently, well, she's the number 2 off tank in the game after Khan. But the idea is that Khan is kind of permabanned, well, in most cases he is, and then Ashe is gonna be the only one people pick. She's not banned, well, mostly because her utility comes in the form of her bullying enemies, pretty much just like Fernando does, except for that she does it kind of differently, given that she has multiple playstyles. You can play Slugshot, and you can play Battering Ram. And please, one more time, I'm gonna say this. Stop thinking that Ashe can work as a point tank. Free up Ashe to do other things, greater things, off-tanking and bullying enemies. Okay, she's a great core-rise spreader. She has amazing self-sustain with Brawl 5 and Indomitable 5 together. I'm just gonna show you the loadout already. This is a pro's loadout, so this is what he runs. And that's that. The two fillers are up to you, completely up to you, so it doesn't matter. Okay, now that's Ashe. She's the number 2 off-tank in the game. The number 3 is Raum, the number 1 is Khan again. Now, Torvald is kind of in a bad spot right now, simply because he got a nerf to his shielding. Just gonna go over it quick right now. Your protection lasts, well, it's only a 500 health shield. That's one shot from any damage dealer in the game, except maybe Vivian. Victor's just gonna burst it down in one burst, because people play burst mode Victor. Okay, so Vivian's gonna need, like, she does 170 per shot, so that's 4 shots. And those 4 shots happen in, let's just bring up my calculator, she shoots every 0.14 seconds, times 4, that's half a second. So basically, his protection got axed, really. That's why he only runs Thanks Grandpa, because he cannot afford to have the entire reason you run Torvald for be useless. You need Thanks Grandpa for that 1k shielding, and still Wrecker 1 will disable that shield if you're up against BK. He's gonna be dealing 1080 damage to that shield. Same thing with Dredge, except Dredge would not even consider buying Wrecker for you because he's just gonna burst your shield down anyway. Well, many others just stop at Wrecker 2 to destroy your shield even with Thanks Grandpa. However, because of the fact that the damage that's more than the 1000 is dealt as damage to the player, people will still be buying Wrecker 3, not to mention that your health is 3000 and then you have a shield of 2200. Okay, so people will basically be using this and Wrecker to make sure you're always a squishy with this much health. That's why you don't run Torvald, unless maybe you're playing just to make Moji work in higher elo. Okay, it's kind of a meme, but still, if you kind of snowball early game, you're going to be able to carry the duo of Moji and Torvald. It's kind of funny when you see people losing to that duo. Now, when it comes to Ruckus is not... he should not be a free tank. Ruckus should not be the free tank in the game. He's not new player friendly. His talents and loadouts are kind of the hardest to build. Okay, now these are not good loadouts. This is good. Okay, this is one of the good loadouts, but the problem is I'm running this at 5. I have to have this map dependent. You want to go watch Robu to learn how to play Ruckus. Now, for example, I run it at 2 on this one and at 2 on this one, but neither of these is good. This is self-healing, okay? Now, self-healing isn't that bad. It's just that you actually are going to lose the value of the healing with more cauterize, while actual DR is never gonna lose value. Okay, so basically go learn Ruckus from Robo. He has an amazing guide about map related knowledge that you need to be playing Ruckus. Now, as of his talents, I'm just gonna make this quick. Flux Generator is kind of bad, given that, well, most of the time you're gonna need the utility from Aerial Assault, which is a 3rd charge and the ability to go up. Okay, vertical mobility, that's great. This vertical mobility is the reason people don't run these 2 talents. This only confirms skills if you're still new to how you use your missile launcher, okay? If you know how to aim those missiles or are diving correctly, you don't need this talent, and you don't go fighting 2v1 as Ruckus, okay? You don't just go ahead and fight 2 stacked enemies. That's just gonna get you killed and you will start feeding. Now, Flux Generator has a meme build that I use, which is this one. in casual if people force me to be a point tank in casuals. Now, I'm just gonna say this. This is a great tip. Never ever play casual siege to play off tanks. The spot to be playing off tanks is only team deathmatch. It doesn't even work on onslaught. Now, that's only because the onslaught maps are weird and kinda small. TDM, however, on maps like, what was it called? Something keep. Okay, let me just check the map name by going here, play, custom, and create. Okay, so it's Trade District, sorry. So this is the map to learn off tanks. Okay, now others will work, such as this one, for example, but still, this is the best map to be learning off tanks because you can hold spots, and other than that, you can also make use of the space you build for your team. You make as an off tank. So let's just go ahead and say this. Please stop stacking on the point. Why do you see pro players go on point sometimes when they're playing someone like Khan? Well, the issue with with Frontliners really is the way they earn credits. Now, Khan is not gonna be dealing an amazing amount of damage no matter what. He tops it at like 75k or 80k in long games. Okay, that's just laughable compared to the 200k that a damaged champion will have done by that time. Okay, so Khan is all about eliminations and making space for the team. He's not even gonna have great shielding numbers either. So why is he the #1 tank while he lacks that stats? Okay, those stats, sorry. Why is he that good? Well, simply enough, it's just because the space he makes and his ult and his stun are great. So how does Khan get money or credits if he can't do that much damage? You know, if you watch how the credits are earned in the game as a tank, you earn them by standing on the point or the payload or contesting it, or by getting eliminations or kills, and sometimes while you're shielding someone. Okay, so that's how you earn credits. That's why after someone in a pro team would capture the objective, sometimes you'll find them stacking up on the point for a little bit just to earn some more credits and buy the next level of cauterize or whatever else item they need. That is the only reason you see pro players standing on the point. Now, there is one more reason, well, that kind of can be taken into consideration. It's just not as important as the previous one, which is simply enough put, sometimes the enemy is running solo tank, okay, and the enemy losing that solo tank with the stun when you're playing Khan, or losing to 2 tanks, such as when you duo Terminus and Inara versus Barik, which is kind of funny. Barik's not gonna live if he stands on the point. Well, you just earned yourself a non-contested point, and as soon as that Barik is dead, the off tank can go and off tank anyway, whether you're playing Terminus or Khan. So basically, they've built up the space the team needs on the point, and the enemy is going to be under so much pressure. Okay, now for example, one of the tanks that might do this as well and play around the point but not on it, they won't be stacking, is Makoa. Because he also can make that space. If he just displaces the enemy point tank by pulling them behind his own team, that's great. That also will make so much space for your team. Okay, please don't stand on the point. Don't stack 2 tanks on the point no matter what. Okay, it's just that I've explained those situations just so that you'd understand why. When it comes to tanks, there actually isn't that many raw or bad talents. There's not that much illusion of choice here. Most tanks have 2 talents that are viable and 1 raw talent. Some of them don't even have a draw talent. I'm just gonna go, well, one by one and explain the situations and the advantages of each talent. Now, Ash, the tank that's currently regarded as one of the best off tanks. People will play Battering Ram on the loadout that I've showed you earlier. This isn't just one pro player's loadout. This is the Ash loadout, okay? It's so great because Brawl activates no matter what you hit. A shield, a deployable, a clone from Ying, is it deployable? A turret from Barik, is it deployable? Luna from Io, is it deployable? The more people you hit or things you hit, the more you're gonna heal for. So basically, in most situations, you're gonna hit at least 2 targets, and that's 1200 healing over 2 seconds. That's great. Sometimes you'll even be able to hit 3 targets, and that's 1800 over 2 seconds. That's insane sustain, actually. It's just insane. And I know that 50% lifesteal might seem like much, but please remember that you only deal 400 damage unless fall off happened. Okay, we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Still, you do want to have this card. Okay, don't just misunderstand that this is bad just because it's 200. You need this card for the self-sustain. Okay, now let's just show you the difference between battering ram as a weapon, not as a talent. I'm just comparing this to this. This is a weapon change talent. Okay, not many of those in the game. So basically, when not running slugshot, basically these 2 talents, your weapon has a limited range and fall off. 166 from this. Can't hit. Now I can hit for like 93. Now if I move up close, that's 400. Now notice the color of the HP bar and the outline. Now this might get patched out soon, since people are using trigger bots with this to detect that the crosser's color is red, thus they can shoot. Okay, this is gonna get changed probably next patch, but still I think the HP bar is not gonna be affected. So basically, keep an eye on the HP bar if you want to know if you can hit something or not on any champion, not just Ashe. So basically, even when out of range, you still can hit because it's an area of effect damage. It's gonna be affected by blast shields. Okay, now this does have fall off, as we've seen. It dealt 93 damage one time. Slugshot, on the other hand, does not have fall off. As long as it hits, it's always 400, no matter what. It either hits or not. 400 or 0, no cases in between. This is why on long maps people play Slugshot on Ashe. Okay, not only does it not have fall off, but you can hit farther away enemies. Now keep in mind that this reduces your utility of being a cauterized spreader, but still you do bully enemies. You going against an enemy sniper, if you're going 1v1, it's 5 seconds for you to kill them. However, if you use your shield correctly, you will win that 1v1. But still, please stop going 1v1 when you're playing off tanks. Please have someone follow you. If your team is literally new to the game and can't understand what an off tank is, play around the point, not on it, around it. The team is gonna be forced to be near you and do whatever they need to finish off your targets. Okay, so that's how you play off tanks on lower elo. Play around the point when no one's following you. Now let's just go ahead and say this. When you're forced as Ashe to be a point tank, you do run Fortress Breaker, but you need a loadout for that, which is gonna be something like this. Where is it? This one, Siege Engine. So basically, this will make you have your shield up more, and you're just better off buying Chronos, because really, when you're on the point, the only one you're gonna be applying Cauterize to is the enemy point tank. Okay, you need Chronos to stay alive and do something. So basically what I would do is buy Cauterize 1, then Chronos 1, then Cauterize 2, and then Chronos 2. That's how I would run it. But still, that's really not the case in real games. People will not leave you to be playing point tank Ashe. Please stop playing casual Siege. It's not worth it. If you're trying to play tanks, learn them in team deathmatch. Okay, not anywhere else. Okay, let's go ahead and change the champion. Atlas. Well, we've already said this, but Atlas, most of the time, when a new player is playing him, is gonna be a player on the enemy team, not on your team. Now, I might just as well put some examples here, but I'm gonna just name them first. Now, Deja Vu is what the talent you would see most of the time on Atlas, simply because a good Atlas will be using this to create way too much space and win point fights with it. So it's a talent that you would use early game just to send enemies nearly back to spawn and earn about like 12% point capture. Now, if the point fight has already been won by your team, this will still be usable if the enemies stacked up together and try to touch the point as fast as possible. If you catch them off guard with this, you will win that fight. You will win the point fight. And this is just an ability, it's not the ultimate. Now, against high damage, high burst things, you're gonna want to run Temporal Divide. It's his best talent according to many people. However, the issue with it is that your cooldown is gonna be really long, increased by 50%. That's a lot, really. Now, I'm just gonna show you the shield anyway, and I don't care really about what loadout we're gonna play. Just this one. This is your Temporal Divide. You can basically aim this from your flank lane in a way that would benefit your point tank. Okay, so please use this correctly, aim at the right spots. So one more time, this is the best talent on Atlas in most scenarios, and in most scenarios you wouldn't want to run Atlas, okay? The only scenario that comes to mind when you would want to pick Atlas in ranked is if you're on ice mines and Terminus is banned and the enemy picked Dredge. That's when you would consider running Atlas. I don't think there's any other situation or map that would require that. Well, maybe on Bright Marsh we can use the same example. If Dredge is picked by the enemy and Terminus is banned, and you don't have a good flanker or your team went double damage for some reason, it's really gonna be better off for you to play Atlas just to deny Dredge that free damage. Okay, because anything that hits your shield is gonna disappear. It's not gonna deal any damage to anyone. Now keep in mind, you don't necessarily need this all the time. It's not like the one and only. If you're good at playing Atlas, this might be good. It's just not as good as this one. And remember, the cooldown got increased, the benefits from buying Chronos increased with it. And this card, look at this one. So it reduces the cooldown of your shield or status field by 5 seconds after hitting an enemy with setback. Keep in mind that it's not hit 1 or 2 or 5 enemies, it's hit 1 enemy 5 seconds. If you hit 11 enemies, it's not gonna like give you a shield instantly. The card is worded wrong. Okay, so Deja Vu does not give this card any extra benefits. It's always going to be 5 seconds. Now, if we're running Temporal Divide and use our shield, it's gonna last 5 seconds. And our cooldown isn't 14, it's like 21 right now. Well, if we buy Chronos, remember, that's just gonna lower it by 30%. Now, once it's lowered by that amount, let's go ahead and change the champion one more time just because we need the cooldown to happen faster. Just gonna buy Chronos again. So 5 seconds of you being safe most of the time, and then 15 seconds cooldown without you having to hit the right mouse button. Let's just do it. And now it's 3 seconds because we got it reduced by 5 with Phantom Pain. So just be careful about when to pick Atlas. You generally don't want to pick Atlas. Now some people say, oh, he's a tank that still does some damage. His damage happens over 1.4 seconds, okay? A body shot or 10 body shots or 15, whatever number you hold your weapon for, is only 750. A headshot is 1125. That's great and all, but that's 1.4 seconds. Now, Cassie shoots twice in that time, okay? Remove the instant free shot that starts at time 0, okay? Just Cassie shoots every 0.75 seconds. 2 shots from Cassie will deal 1280, and those are not headshots, okay? So you're still better off running a damage champion if you're looking for damage. Stop looking for damage on tanks, okay? That's not gonna happen. Maybe Barik has the highest chance of dealing great amounts of damage, okay? Others, not so much. Atlas is kind of a squishy tank. His base HP is 3500. You know, that's kind of sad, but still, he does live and duel and win 1v1s for a reason. Still, I would not ever recommend Atlas for no reason. There's actually that one situation that we've already discussed, which is Dredge on Ice Mines or on Bright Marsh, that you would consider running Atlas viable, okay? You might find other situations like against high bursts or against 2 damage dealers and no flanker. Yes, that would make Atlas work actually, but still there are other better options. That's the idea behind not running Atlas. One mistake from you will just usually lose your team the point fight or the push or the defense or even the game entirely. That's how risky playing Atlas is right now. So basically you'd want to run a loadout like this, not exactly this one, this is just a good enough loadout. Now why is that? Well, simple. Your second chance, which is you regaining your older position from a little bit back where you were in the past, well, and all of your health is reduced from 18 seconds to 16. And furthermore, it will send you back to the past 1.6 seconds earlier. This literally translates to around 1500 or 1200 or 1800 depending on which enemy you're fighting against. So for example, BK, 2 stickies are 1.5 seconds, well, more like 1.4, okay? This makes those 2 stickies go away, okay, if you want to take the third one before you use your second chance. That's the idea behind staying alive on Atlas. It's not your base HP, like for example on Raum or something. It's just that you have second chance. Other than that, your status field, which is your shield that is unbreakable, is 5 full seconds of you being, well, safe. Let's just say that. Now if your enemy is going around your shield, you can play around your shield and enter and exit it if you like that playstyle. That still works, and this is just a filler. You can remove it and put whatever else you feel like. I just want to stress out that you need this card, Phantom Pain, if you want to have the maximum value out of your stasis field, okay, because its base cooldown is 14, and at 4 points, well, the loadout, let's just show you the loadout. At 4 points, if you're not using Temporal Divide, which I picked right now, that's gonna be a 10-second cooldown if you hit setback. This is a non-flat cooldown reduction. So basically, when I know that I don't need to use Temporal Divide and that the normal sized shield is enough, I would run Deja Vu and run something like this. Okay, this would be really, really great. Now each tier of Chronos is gonna reduce the shield by like let's see, it's a 1.4 second reduction. So at level 3 on Chronos, that's gonna be 1.4 times 3, 4.2. Well, your shield is gonna be on a 9.8 second cooldown, and Phantom Pain is gonna reduce that by 4. It's a 5.8 second or 6 second cooldown on the shield. That's great. You are actually supposed to win like nearly every 1v1 possible in the game, unless you're up against something that has cripple or silence, okay? You're not going to be able to do anything about that. So basically, if your team forces you to play Atlas as a point tank for some unholy reason, and the enemy Inara goes cripple, you're dead, and your team has lost because they forced you to do that. You're better off running away and playing off tank and ignore Inara while you deal with her entire team and then go kill her and capture the point. That's what you would want to do in that situation. Or don't play Casual Siege. You don't learn tanks in Casual Siege. No one's gonna pick 2 tanks for you to learn off tanking in Casual Siege unless you're with a duo partner. Okay, that's just not something reliable. Team Deathmatch has all the situations that a point and off tank need to learn how to play the game. Okay, please, if you can afford it, stay away from Atlas. He's bad right now because of how much skill you need to have and how much carefree and unaffected by stress and able to work under stress you need to be to play him. One mistake, one game lost. That's what Atlas is. When it comes to Barik, just like Ash, he has a weapon change talent. I'm gonna need to show you, even though I do have a guide written on Barik, I'm just gonna need to show you the misconception related to tinkering, okay? It's not per se a throw talent all the time, but still it's bad. Now, I'm just gonna show you instead of talking. So, just gonna pick Architectonics, and the weapon on it is the same thing as Fortify, and show you how low your range is. So, I'm basically standing on the 150 pedestal, and this is about 40 units away, maybe even less. And a body shot is not dealing the 500 at this range. So, I barely do my damage. Even headshots will deal less than 750. Now, if I shoot someone a little bit further, 250, 251. Now, the thing is, at maximum distance, it's gonna be random. It's always gonna be 250, but there's gonna be that one time that it hits for 100, and there's gonna be once in a blue moon, a shot that will not hit anything. 250, 100, 100 on 2 targets, 250. Now, if you hold the button instead of tapping it, it's gonna get more consistent. I don't know why. I'm just gonna hold the button, okay? 250, 250, 250, 250, 100, and 250. I don't know why. It might just be random, and I have this misconception that if you hold the button, it's gonna be more consistently 250, okay? I don't know. Now, tinkering is a mid-ranging talent. Let me just show you why. Well, basically it has fall off on a projectile, and that projectile is kind of slow. Well, it's not slow, it's just as fast as Cassie's one, but people still can dodge it. So 480 and this distance, which is the full damage that the talent does. Okay, even at that distance, 480, the full one. That's medium distance, by the way. And over there, it's like 382. Okay, however, if I move a little bit further, now this distance is actually something like on Warder's Gate, okay, between the point and where the Kinesis sniper would be standing at, or the enemy sniper. You're gonna be dealing 150 to that sniper. That's less than the normal weapon does. Okay, plus you lose your headshot damage. You cannot deal headshot damage while you're using a projectile. Okay, not a single projectile in the game deals headshot damage. This is why you would rather want to be playing Architectonics if you were forced to play Barik in the first place. Remember, kind reminder, you're gonna be picking Inara if she's open, instead of picking Barik. If Inara is taken, you might consider Terminus if he's not banned, while Khan is banned. You can't run Terminus while the enemy has Khan. You'll just die. That's when you would consider running Barik. I'm not saying he's bad. He's just the third best point tank right now, just because of, well, the lost sustain on him. He no longer frees up the support completely like I named this talent for. Okay? I mean this loadout, sorry. So what exactly is the idea behind playing Barik safely with Architectonics? Well, simple. You have reduced your cooldown from 10 seconds to 7 seconds on your turrets. Your turrets will be healing you. 2 turrets will heal for 160 each second. Okay, now this is going to be affected by cauterize, but while you're behind your shield, cauterize doesn't exist. You're going to be out of cauterize, okay? That's when you get the maximum value out of this one. If you get to cover also, you're just going to be getting the value out of it. Same thing with double time. You would generally want to have your shields up and getting out of cauterize before you use the 2 stacks, which is going to be affected by this, I mean, of your dash. So basically, you reach 40% of your health, you can double dash and get 1500 health back. That's half of your health for the 2 dashes. It's not a realistic situation, but it's going to be something that you'll run into, well, half the time, okay? It's not just that good to be wasting both of them like that. It's always going to be better off that you use the first dash earlier just to survive something like BK if you're running this loadout with the shielding. So before he detonates his stickies, or hits you with them with royal subjects, you run this, I mean you use this so that you wouldn't take damage in the first place. Now some damage might do happen anyway, since a singular sticky will deal 300 damage to you after the shield is destroyed. This is where this kicks in. This is gonna heal you for that lost health. Okay, now we might just go ahead and explain failsafe while we're at it, and explain one man scrap versus red streak. Now you'll see pro players playing this card, red streak. I'm just gonna edit the loadout and show you this one. Okay, so basically reduce your cooldown of rocket boots from 12 seconds by 0.8 seconds per point. Now why do I run this instead? Okay, I'm just gonna run my calculator and show you why. This says, the one down here, reduce your cooldowns by 6% each time a turret is destroyed. This is a non-flat cooldown reduction. This is flat. This is gonna get you less value out of Chronos. So when I run this, Chronos is not gonna be affected by the non-flat cooldown reduction. Basically 6% of 12 seconds is going to be 12 times 0.06. That's 0.72, almost the same number here. And you can have two turrets up at the same time. If they both get destroyed, you're getting like double the value nearly of this card. That's my personal reason. It's not a real good reason. It's not a good argument. I understand that, but I'd rather run this because it's a cooldown reduction on all of my cooldowns, on my shield, on my turret deploy, and on my dash. That's why I run one man scrap. That's my reason. If it's wrong, I'm sorry that I'm wrong, okay? I know that pros run this, and I understand the efficiency of it. Still, I run this personally. Now, since we're here talking about pro cards, you'll see people running fuel efficiency. Now, why is this card good? Well, simple. Your dash is 1 full second unless you cancel it. If you use this card, you're gonna be able to run back to cover as Barik, which is something that you might actually need to do to survive on some maps. Sometimes it's really better to regroup with your team and fall back to safety and heal up out of combat, or, well, out of Coderize's effect anyway. So your speed while you're dashing is great enough that if you run this at 2 or 3 points, you're going to be running away, well, relatively to safety just by dashing once. Okay, that's why you might see this card in pro loadouts. I still don't use it because I simply, well, let's just say it, even if I'm reaching Diamond 5 and dropping down a lot from that rank, I'm not getting good support players on my team, so I'm not trusting them enough with myself. That's why I have my loadouts named after what I'm thinking is gonna happen. Am I gonna free up the support and not rely on them? Or am I gonna trust my support and completely rely on them, other than double time, to heal me? Now, I've got this loadout that actually sort of is in between. So basically, I've got great sustain here. My health is great here. It's like 3850, sorry. And failsafe is gonna proc at a higher health, so I know I'm safe. I know I can use my double dash to self-sustain myself really well. And the sustain from the turrets is great. Now, one last thing that I'm gonna explain is the difference between these two cards, okay? Now, I'm just gonna equip this loadout or whatever else. Just let's use this one and edit it. Now, I'm gonna put them both at 5. This has 25 more than this, so why would I rather run field deploy over healing station? Well, simple enough. If you have 2 turrets up, this happens twice per second. Healing station is only affected by you being near any turret. It does not happen twice if you have both turrets up. It doesn't activate twice. It's not per turret. It's as long as you're near a turret. Okay, so this does not heal you for 250 every second if you have 2 turrets up. This does heal you for 200. This is why this has more value on it. And that's the cards on Barik. Now, one last thing before we go. I really urge you to check out the guide and import these loadouts. You need these loadouts, except this one. This is kind of a meme. You might replace this loadout with something that has fuel efficiency, the card we talked about in pro builds. Okay? The others, you need those other loadouts. There is a point to me having this loadout. Now, the 150k shielding challenge that always happens to be in the battle pass is kind of annoying to get because, well, if you're playing ranked and you're gonna be picking Inara doesn't do shielding exactly the same way other tanks do. Inara's stats don't exactly count the same way that a shield does. It's kind of weird. It's lower than it should be. Well, maybe because people stop shooting your walls. I don't understand how it counts anyway. So basically, I did that challenge in a casual match against an enemy BK. Okay, he was a Grandmaster, and I won 1v1 against him, not because I was playing Fortified, no, just because I was always having my shields up with this talent. It's not about how high the shield's HP is. It's gonna become like 5,750 with the talent. I just had so much cooldown reduction and no self-sustain whatsoever. That's why this is a meme. It's a meme build only. I'm completely under my support's mercy, really. Okay? So keep that in mind if you want to run this. This is what I got the 150k shielding. It was like 210k that time. Basically, in a 15-minute, it was like 14 minutes actually. It was a casual match on Stonekeep, if I recall correctly. So this is why I keep this. It's just so that I passed that stupid Battle Pass challenge. Well, I don't call them challenges really. They are chores, really. Like kill Furia 10 times as Khan, or 5 times, I don't remember. Or kill Victor as Strix 50 times. That's just stupid. Now, still, I want to talk about Fortify. Please do not think that against an enemy Dredge that this would save you. 2 broadsides destroy your shield. That's the difference. Now, the thing is, without Fortify, 1 broadside and 1 shot from anyone will destroy your shield. Well, not from anyone, just simply, let's put it like this. Each shot from broadside, and that's 3 shots by the way, is gonna be dealing 950. That's 2,850 damage dealt to the shield, which has 3,750 health. All that's left is 900. Okay, so basically, well, if Cassie does shoot you once, your shield is almost down. The enemy point tank shooting that shield, that's your shield gone. Okay, and of course no one's gonna be running 2 damage. Well, they might, but still, your shield without Fortify is gonna go down fast. However, all that Fortify does is make Dredge use 2 broadsides to take it down. Okay, so 2 broadsides, that's gonna be 950 times 6, that's 5,700. This leaves your shield up with 50 health only. Okay, against Dredge. Don't think that this saves you from Dredge. What this would do is, if an enemy sniper is like out there and you do not happen to have a flanker for some reason, then this is something that you would pick. Against Vivian, when you don't have a flanker, this is something that you would pick. Okay? Now, most of the time you're gonna be running Architectonics anyway, and start the round by off-tanking, killing that backliner, okay? And then once they're dead, you're gonna have whomever on your team zone and spawn camp that annoying enemy. Sorry. Kind of sad to see Barik players not understanding not to go on the points immediately. You deal great amounts of damage. 500 on body shots and 750 on headshots is great. And your turrets will be healing you and annoying the enemy. For example, if the enemy has Maeve, Eevee, or Androxus, the turrets will still shoot them in the air, okay? It's really annoying to Eevee when you're shooting her with this. However, once Eevee has her ult, you're practically dead once she ults you, because you can't run away. You better have your shield up if you want to stand any chance when getting ulted by Eevee. And maybe the team will peel for you. Maybe the enemy, or I'm sorry, your friendly team's IO will give you some extra movement speed and you will have bought some resilience to get out of there faster. And the DR from IO will help a little bit more. So keep that in mind when running Barik. You're not safe from CC, unlike Inara. Terminus is also unsafe from CC, but he's safe from damage like Dredge. Actually, Terminus counters Dredge. Okay, that's the idea behind Terminus being better. He counters so many bursty, spammy damage champions. Okay, that's the idea, basically. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about Fernando.
I need to gear up.
The idea behind Fernando, as we've already said, is annoying enemy flankers and wasting their time. That's more than enough for your team to win the game, because if the enemy flanker can't do anything but keep running away and away and away, well, you're just gonna win because their attention and their usefulness is all gone. You basically stop flankers. That's your role as Fernando, as well as saving your team and making space for them. Now, I'm just going to be talking about these two talents only. Now, Scorch is what you usually see, but Formidable still has a place. Now that the bug related to it has been fixed back in last month, basically anytime you respawn, this timer would activate and the talent would require to live 45 seconds before you can use it. You just respawned and you can't use the talent. That's why it wasn't ran last month. Now that was supposedly fixed. I'm not sure. I haven't played Formidable Fernando for a while, so I don't know if it really got fixed. Okay? Because many of the bugs that were promised to be fixed were not fixed. Now, I wouldn't run Aegis no matter what. Your shield has an 8-second duration and 5500 health. That's more than enough. You don't need any more time on the shield, really. Why would you need more time on it? Okay, so basically I don't run this just because I don't like the fact that it basically translates to nothing for me, just for me. Now, Scorch is what I would run. Why? Well, simple enough. On maps like Ice Mines, this is just so easy to confirm at least 2 hits. On many lanes, on nearly every map, this is easy to confirm. Okay, this is just easy damage. What happens is you just shot through the first targets and dealt the best damage, and then it's gonna get bigger and bigger the more targets you hit, and this is annoying to deal with. So the enemy support is not going to have to be healing one person, but 2 or 3, maybe even themselves, okay, depending on if you hit them or not. This is great if you want to make more space for your team. However, this doesn't mean that Formidable does not make that same space. Maybe sometimes, in some situations, you're going to be able to do more. But we need to explain what this is about. Okay, now, there is a replacement for this in loadout cards. I'm just going to show you the Training Wheels loadout with Scorch, okay? This is a replacement for Formidable. It's like the same effect but less. Now, your base HP on Fernando is actually 4600. That's a lot, really. So 4600 plus this 600 from the card Cavalier is gonna be 5200. Now, this card says if you are below 40% health, you start healing yourself for a lot per second. And since you're behind your shield, you're out of Cauterize. This isn't affected by Cauterize since you're behind the shield, okay? That's the situation you're in. So basically, what is 40% of your health? Well, we're just gonna multiply 5200 by 0.4, and that's 2080, which is around half your health, a little bit less than half your health. Well, of course, it's 40%, what do you expect? This is great. You nearly have the full health of a squishy. And that's always gonna be the case, since you're always going to have your shield up, nearly always. The cooldown is gonna be 8 seconds, and if you, for some reason, buy Chronos, it's gonna be less. But really, you don't need Chronos on Fernando, unless you wanna spam those fireballs more and more. Okay, so keep in mind what you buy. You mostly buy Cauterize and Nimble on Fernando. So basically, you don't need Formidable in order to be able to live. What Formidable does is you don't stop at 2k health, you actually go back to near full health. Okay, just hide behind your shield at the right time, and once you've touched that 2080 mark, you're gonna heal for 55% of your maximum health. This will actually get you back nearly to full health. Okay, just time your shield correctly. The issue with it is that it only happens every 45 seconds. Otherwise it's gonna be broken, sorry. Well, still, there are reasons to run it. If you're up against high burst, you want this, because your shield is gonna last while that burst is trying to break it. You're gonna have your full health back. You're gonna be able to regroup with your team, or the space that you've made and the time you've wasted. You can waste up to 8 seconds on enemies if they stop shooting your shield for some reason, like most people do for some reason. I don't understand. Okay, well, simply, if anyone was behind you, the shield is really big. They can't just shoot the enemy for free, basically. And that's why this still has place in the meta. Instead of you dealing the damage and hoping for enemies to be stacked, whomever is behind you deals the damage, and you won't die that often. This just simply means more zoning. Now, keep in mind, for me personally, I think these two are tied. I understand that Flanknando exists on something like this. This isn't necessarily the way you play Flanknando. This is the way that my friends do. Okay, this is a loadout for my friends. They have free rejuvenate at 15%, which is an item that they don't buy. Okay, they don't waste their credits on it because they have it. Well, even though it's at 50% or lower, they still say it's enough for them anyway, since they won't die as Fernando that often anyway. Now, we need to discuss something other than talents and loadouts, okay? The ults, okay? I'm just gonna move up. That might have been loud. We're just gonna ult and waste it. And by the way, please, why do Fernando players stop shooting while they're ulting? Like, do they not know that you can still shoot? Well, it's not going to be written here, but if you check the champion page on the advanced tab, it's going to be there that you can shoot while you're ulting. Now, see how fast you build up the ult. I'm just going to hold the button.
I'm not afraid.
That was like 12%. Now, look at Scorch's ult charge build. Well, I hit 2, and that was almost like 8%. Okay, so the charge, that was 2%. Your ult builds up so fast on Fernando. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and say this. By the time that overtime happens, okay, you've maybe won or lost a singular point fight, overtime is gonna happen, you're gonna have your ult. That's on a good Fernando that knows what he's doing. Okay, you ult basically twice per round at least. This is why, please stop saving your ult if it gives you the defense or wins you the push or the capture. Okay, stop saving your ult as Fernando. Stop, don't do it. You build up your ult fast anyway. The only time you would want to save the ult is if the enemy was the one with the advantage, like the score is 3 for them and 2 for you and you're pushing. Okay, that's when you save the ult anyway, regardless, because you don't win even if you push that payload in. The enemy will win by the advantage of you not having that ult while the entire enemy team has their ults. So that's the only situation you save it in. Otherwise, use it. Get the advantage of a 1 point more than the enemy. I know you're gonna activate the comeback mechanic, which is something that I haven't explained yet, and I don't plan on explaining it now, actually. Still, use it. It's really fast to build up. Now, basically, what it amounts to, once you've gotten around 4 eliminations, you basically have your ult back. Now, one more thing, which is something that I've heard from my friend. He kind of mains Fernando. He's like level 62 on him. Now, the thing about using your lance he says you gotta use it almost like a semi-automatic pistol to get the maximum possible damage. I don't understand what he means by that, but please, if you want to play Fernando, look up a guide and see how to use the flame lance, which is your primary weapon, effectively. Okay? He's an old player. He plays since the beta days. So I don't understand what he means by that, so you look it up. I'm still level 16 on Fernando, but I know that I'm doing great since I bully every Zen I see and every Koga I see. Even though they can farm my shield, I still bully them. Sometimes I even win 1v1s, by the way, as Fernando. That's how great he is against flankers and how much space he makes. He's kind of underrated just because Ashe exists. But look at this health. That's a lot. I already made a video dedicated to Inara and her diminishing returns on Mother's Grace. This is your always gotta work talent. Okay, no matter what the situation is, this works. This does not have any requirements. Now, Treacherous Grounds will lose you the immunity to crowd control. Okay, what does this mean? Well, simply enough, since the field cripples anyone near you, Khan, for example, can't grab you with his commander's grab, but he can ult you out of your field. Why do I keep saying that this is a draw talent? Well, simple enough. Okay, it's twofolds. One, you get countered by Bulldozer and no longer have a talent once the enemy damage champion buys that. And at higher elo, when an Inara player is seen playing this, people laugh so hard because you just made their day easier by removing Inara from Inara. Okay? Literally, you removed the aspect of why Inara is the best, better than Barik, by playing this. Why would you run this? Okay, the only situation you would run this is if someone on your team first picked Inara instead of first picking Io when Io isn't bad, and then someone else picks Io. Okay, now the player that played Inara is gonna realize, oh, I don't really need a point tank since Io is there. I know that Luna doesn't exactly work as a point tank, okay? I understand that. Still, you would be much better off running 2 off tanks with Io. Ask anyone on the Reddit server, what do you think of running 2 off tanks with Io? They're gonna say it's cancer. You're gonna win like 90% of the time because you just keep making space. Even double support with Io, you don't really necessarily need a point tank. You pick 2 flankers, 1 damage, and 2 supports, or 2 flankers, 3 supports, and you win. Okay, it's happening. It's actually happening outside of the PPC. It is being seen in Diamond Plus games. Okay, so this, I'm just gonna translate it one more time. I get countered by Bulldozer. I'm not immune to CC, so Damba can bully me, and I'm dead so fast that it's sad. Now, just a kind reminder. While you're in Elven Guard, your deployables such as your field, this thing that you deploy, is going to take 30% less damage. So yes, you can still use it for 1 second before it gets destroyed. But that's just 1 second. Okay, late game. And that's 1 second if only one person was shooting it. If there's an enemy blaster, you're just throwing. They don't even need to aim at it. If they aim at it, they're just aiming at you at the same time. Blasters delete this so fast. Especially someone like Dredge. You're not gonna be using this and winning against a blaster. Okay? Now, Tremors. Tremors is kind of in a weird spot. If you're a master Inara, okay, you can use Tremors on its maps. It's got its own maps. However, Tremors is almost the same situation as with Atlas. You might wall off an ally, but you are unable to destroy your walls. You might save an enemy's life by walling them away from your team. This is just sad and bad. There's really no incentive to be playing it, okay? Even against an enemy Dredge. Dredge takes 2 broadsides to bring down your wall. 2 walls means 4 broadsides. 4 broadsides is just enough time for your flanker to have done something about Dredge. I understand this situation, okay? Now, just one thing, please understand that I'm not afraid of Dredge. I'm just saying that he has a map or 2, well, mostly I mean by that Ice Mines and Bright Marsh, where he can work, especially if your team didn't pick a flanker for some reason, okay? So I need to address every possible situation, including Dredge. And by the way, I'm really great at Dredge and I make him work. I just do. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about Dredge anyway right now. Basically, this is just bad 99% of the time. Okay, don't even try running it where you can always win with this. Go with this. It's safe. Even if you make a mistake, you can bring down your walls. You don't get countered by bulldozer. You don't care about anything. You're just owning the point and dealing damage. As a matter of fact, when you're running Mother's Grace, you're gonna be dealing 100k damage per game when a game lasts around 20 minutes, okay? Inara does damage. Keep that in mind. I've just switched back to Barik just to show you one thing. A good Barik will play around your cripple as Inara. Okay, he's gonna run a loadout that does not contain failsafe, double time, or bowling ball. None of those, since your cripple will stop them early game. Late game, his team is gonna have bulldozer and you're not gonna have a talent. Okay, so this is his self-sustain without those cards. He needs these 2 at 5 so that he can get some value out of his turrets. And he buffs those turrets by 300, since that's around the amount of damage your cripple will deal to the turrets on its own. Okay, a good Barik will keep his turrets alive against a cripple Inara. Now I do know that you can switch loadouts at the last second. Okay, if you trick the Barik into doing that, he's just gonna play safe and not go near you. He's just gonna be staying away. You only have 30% damage reduction on your Elden Guard and 20% on your field, or 25 at max, and still you're just gonna be throwing because a good Barik will play around you anyway. As a matter of fact, what he might do is just go off tank, kill your entire team along with his team, and then come kill you. It's sad. What if you captured the point to 99% and then your entire team was zoned and you couldn't make any space as Inara for them because you don't take as much damage as you would if you are running Mother's Grace. Now it's up to you, and I'm not saying that Treacherous Grounds is a complete raw talent. It's just bad compared to Mother's Grace. That's what I'm saying. I've promised you that I'll be explaining the difference between these 2 talents. However, I'm just gonna say this. Leon's Shield is a throw talent because Roxas and Maeve will bypass it. Koga will farm you, and Koga is bad, I understand that, okay? He's not that bad, but still he's not like in the top 5 right now. He will farm your shield for more energy if you run this. He can even dash through you and just kill you anyway. Okay, so basically this has no situation where it can be good in. Okay, don't run this. Now I'm just gonna explain the difference between these 2. Now Vortex Grip will make you the scariest tank or off tank in the game, because if you grab a squishy while anyone, including a support by anyone, okay, if anyone else saw that enemy stunned, that enemy is dead. If you were alone and playing 1v1, it's kind of hard since they will wake up from the stun, which is actually 3 seconds. It says an additional 2 seconds. There is a 1 second on the base ability that happens to be an animation lockout. Both you and that enemy are unable to do anything, okay, in that 1 second. Then you have 2 seconds to burst them down. In 2 seconds, you actually fire less than 8 times. It's 7 times because of a difference of 0.01 seconds. Okay, so you're firing 7 times on your weapon. You need to land 3 headshots to secure a kill on a squishy after you've stunned them. Okay, if they've buffed their health with HP cards, that's not the case. You're not gonna win 1v1 with Khan. It's hard. You need headshots to do it. Now, Storm of Bullets doesn't solve that problem. It removes the stun. It removes your free time to shoot that stun target, okay? Because both you and them are stunned for that 1 second. However, you don't run this because of the stun itself. You're playing around your ultimate when you're using this. I'm just gonna go ahead and use this loadout that I've imported from Rubu and show you what that means. I'm just gonna use the ult and try to build it as fast as possible. Notice how I gain 1% each time I hit a body shot. Now, when you're not inside the shooting range, there's gonna be a little delay between each update on your ult charge, okay? So don't like panic when you see it not happening in game. It's just gonna be like waiting until 4 shots land and then updating it with 4%, okay? So keep that in mind in game. Now look at the grab. It's 4% ult charge. What this means is by the time you've emptied 3 magazines, you do have your ult. That's actually fast. Well, how fast? Well, simply enough said, 6 minutes of you, 6 minutes of you actually being in the fight. Not 6 minutes on the timer. Okay, not 6 minutes between you spawning, walking or mounting to the point or wherever you want to go and then shooting. No, you gotta be in the fight for 6 minutes. That's gonna be 3 ults, okay? You might want to try that in team deathmatch. You're gonna be able to ult 3 times without picking the free ults item or pickup in the maps in team deathmatch. Try that out on Storm of Bullets. Okay, now headshots change this a little bit. Okay, it's 2%. Okay, hold on, let's just use someone that doesn't have. Okay, 2%. Well, it's not exactly 2%, it's just a little bit less. Okay, now there is a reason not to run morale boost first, not to try to just build it before cauterize, which is the fact that what it will do is each and every 3rd shot is 2%. Well, it's even less, but still, let's look at this. 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, and the thing is, I'm just getting the charge up faster because, well, this is just happening on its own because I now have morale boosts by a bit, okay? The amount that it exactly does on level 1 is kind of questionable. It's good, but still you don't start with it, okay? You basically want to run Cauterize 2 and then start building morale boosts. Why is that? Well, simple enough. If you're against Genos, Cauterize 2 is more than enough to shut him down, healing-wise, okay? Why do people buy Cauterize 3 against Genos? It's just mysterious, really. Do the numbers on your own. You'll find out that 50% of his healing will amount to him not reducing your time to kill or increasing it, sorry, by any amount, no matter what health the enemy damage or flanker has. You know, it's not gonna matter if you have Cauterize 2 against Genos. So basically you would stop at Cauterize 2 and then start building morale boosts. Now let's go ahead and use the ult. And we're gonna see 2%. Yeah, basically each 3rd shot or 2nd shot is gonna be 2%. Now headshots are gonna be double that nearly. Well, not exactly double. Yep, each 3rd shot or 4th shot is 3% now. That's on morale boost 3. Now, sorry, it was 2. So 3 is just a tad better. It's not like more. So 2% is nearly the amount per shot right now, okay? So once you've built up morale boost 3 with Cauterize, you're an ult machine. You're supposed to be ulting twice per round, okay? Twice per round and gaining around half the ult charge by the time the next round starts, unless you went into overtime and then built it up again anyway. That's how good Storm of Bullets can be. However, let me just clarify things. Vortex Grip is always better, except on one map, which is Fish Market. Now, on Fish Market, you can still play safe and keep on one flank side of the map or the other, and do good with Vortex Grip. You can still make space with it. However, once the point fight is over and you've passed over the house on Fish Market, there is this hill and then the endpoint or the payload destination. Well, at that distance, the enemy sniper will not be in range for you to grip them. The enemy point tank might be in range, but if you dash to grab them, you're dead because the entire enemy team is gonna be looking at you. You simply do nothing as Khan on that map if you're using Vortex Grip, neither on the defensive nor on the offensive. All you do is feed at that point most of the time, because your grab doesn't exist. You're not gonna be near close enough to do anything. Once you've passed that hill or almost pushing the payload, you're really relying on your teammates themselves to make the space for you to go in and dash and grab that one enemy that remains. Otherwise you're gonna be dead. So be careful when you run Vortex Grip on Fish. You really gotta know when to dash if you do that. That's why you see pros play Storm of Bullets on that map specifically. Now, you might have been watching the PPC. There was another situation where people ran Storm of Bullets, which is solo tank Khan, and they know that if Khan dashes, he's gonna die, even with the DR card. The DR card is kind of, well, it kind of makes me sad that it requires you to hit that enemy, and it's 2 seconds only. 1 second of your lockdown animation. You can't do anything in the first second. 1 second of having this much DR, and then you're open for fire. But still, you did grab someone. Okay, you did gain the advantage. However, if it turns into a trade by you dying right after them, it's bad. So don't always dismiss Storm of Bullets. Now, I do have this weird loadout that has lifesteal in it, the lifesteal card. However, the lifesteal card's value is questionable now that Khan has his damage nerfed ever since 2020. So basically, you don't want to run it. I always keep a meme build for that case when one of my friends wants to 1v1 tank versus tank or support versus support. Okay, so this might be good in that situation. 1v1s for fun. And this is not a good loadout. I just ran this at 1, since if I was feeling like a coward, I would hide behind my shield for 25 every second, which is nothing. Okay, this is just bad. Just run Ruckus deck instead. Okay, he has 2 for Storm of Bullets, not just this one. You check it out yourself. Some people will only run this at 3 since it's 29 bullets. And 29 bullets are enough anyways to build your ult charges just as fast. And just use that one left point on something else, like for example, more shouts or more base health. One last thing before we end with Khan. I'm not saying that Vortex Grip builds the ult slower because of a difference in numbers. The hits will always generate the same amount of ult charge, regardless of the talent. It's just that this fires 40% faster. That's it. That's the reason that this builds ults faster. That's all. Makoa is kind of in a sad state right now. I do know that there are pro players that still do great on Makoa. However, there's zero incentive to run anything other than half shell. And I'm gonna show you what Pluck does and translate it for you in a bit. However, half shell, you require this loadout for it, specifically this 5-point and this 5-point card, and the rest are up to you. This is just the way I run it personally because I like more self-sustain. The only reason Koa can't be considered bad is his lack of self-sustain. Okay, that's the one and only reason. He just simply doesn't live. He's entirely at the mercy of his support. So basically, why are these 5-point cards mandatory? Well, simple enough. When you don't have Chronos whatsoever, when the enemy destroys your shield, 5 seconds cooldown instead of 15. That's because you've reduced that cooldown by 10 seconds due to those 2 cards. If you buy Chronos 3 And this is a non-flat cooldown reduction, by the way, not Chronos, but the cards. Okay, look at this.
I will weather this.
1 second cooldown. Well, it wasn't destroyed this time, so we didn't get the second reset anyway. So basically, what this does is force your enemies not to shoot your shield, and your shield is big enough for your allies to actually make use of it effectively to gain more ground. That's how great Half Shell Makoa is. Okay, but still run any other of the 3 best off tanks if you can. The reason why that is, well, simple enough, he doesn't live long enough, but if he does live, like for example, if your support was really great, you're gonna be dealing as much damage as a Barik would do, for example. Now I'm just gonna go change positions and show you Pluck and why it's bad. Just while we're walking there, I'm just gonna say this. It's not bad as in bad, it's just that the value of it is questionable. Okay, you're gonna be running a loadout that has Rampage 5 in it. Sorry, not Rampage, sorry, Strong Arm 5. So that you would have your anchor ready, well, most of the time. It's just the default loadout, I think. So basically, instead of 15 seconds, it's 12 and a half. So what exactly does Pluck do? Well, all it does is reduce your time to kill by 1 second. If you're going 1v1, that is. Okay, so let's just go ahead and shot, hook, shot. Now I can spin to win, but that's not a real situation. You don't want to waste your spin just to 1v1 a 2200 HP enemy. Now what we used up was, well, actually 3 shots. Let's just do that again. Okay, and basically after that, 1 more shot would have killed them. Now remember that it was 3 shots because I have this card that regenerated 1 ammo. Okay, it didn't just use 2 just because you saw 2. We had this card regenerating 1. So it's 3 shots plus anyone breathing on that enemy and they'll die. This is why some people play Pluck. Okay, but still it's bad. Why bad? Well, simple. Look at your cooldown, okay? Your cooldown on the hook is 12 seconds, and we have Chronos 3. We have it still bought here. That's what made it 9. So when you have no Chronos, it's just gonna translate to deal 400 more damage if you hit the hook every 12 and a half seconds. If you have Chronos 3, it translates to deal 400 more damage when you hit the hook if you have Chronos 3 every 9 seconds. This is just sad. And this is why you don't want to run Pluck. It simply amounts to no talent for a long time, and then if you miss, no talent until your cooldown runs out again and you can use the hook again. It's just sad. Okay, I understand 1 less second of time to kill is great, but please understand that if anyone was looking at that target other than you, you're not playing 1v1, this is a 5v5 game. If anyone looks at the target, they're dead. And yes, by the way, if you didn't know, you can rotate your view to get the enemy to go behind you, okay? Now, some players might go crazy and do something like this just to get the enemy dizzy, okay? And it does do that, sort of, but still, it's not really a viable strategy. You want them behind you so that your team can easily burst them down and you've disoriented them enough already. Now, one last thing is Leviathan. This is just sad. Okay, 500 health. This isn't gonna help you survive more than 1 shot, okay? That's all it does. And sometimes you won't even survive that 1 extra shot. Because your base health, which you cannot buff on Makoa, by the way, is 4500. And if you divide 4500 by, for example, BK's 900, you're gonna get an exact number. You're gonna live for 1 more sticky. Okay, if you were AFK and standing still and he was sticking them all on you. Well, other champions will still also need 1 more shot. But still, what's 1 more hit gonna do while you can use your shield to tank way more. You can tank your entire health and more. The shield has 5k health on this loadout. Okay, that's way better than just a measly 500. You never want to run Leviathan. It is a raw talent. Why do people fear Raum at lower elo? Well, simple enough, because they don't buy Cauterize. That's all there is to it. Just buy Cauterize. I know his soul armor isn't affected by neither Wrecker nor Cauterize, but still, all Raum is an ult battery. Just counter him. Let me show you how many counters he has. Khan makes Raum cry with the grab. It doesn't even have to be Commander's Grab or Vortex Grip. I mean the talent, sorry. It's Commander's Grab, the ability that stops Raum. Doesn't need to be a stun. You don't need to be running Vortex Grip to stop Raum. Genos, you don't need to be running the Power Cosmium. Just lift him with any other talent and he will be stopped in his tracks. Of course, you use that after he dashes, not before he does. Funny enough, Bounce House Buck, if you land on him while he's dashing, you're gonna stop his mobility. That's, well, Bounce House Buck actually stops any mobility ability in the game. Okay, each and every one of them. That's why he's kind of, well, scary sometimes to play against. Okay, well, let's look at Grover. You don't even need to be running deep roots to stop Raum from dashing. Your normal axe, your normal crippling throw will stop Raum. Maldamba, reload on him. He stops. Okay? You might even ult him as Pip to stop him. So many options. Set him back with Atlas, even though Atlas, well, you shouldn't be playing Atlas right now, not in this current meta. Torvald, you silence Raum. You don't want to be running Torvald really either. So many options. Makoa, you can hook Raum and stop him from dashing. Furia, beam him. So many options. Imani, root him with Frost Bomb. So many options to counter him. You don't even need to consider the options of stopping him from dashing. Consider melting him, okay? I know Sky isn't that great, I understand that, but still, if for some reason, which is a bad thing, if for some reason you're running Debilitate on Sky, you can melt Raum. But in general, a good Sky will be running Smoke and Dagger and playing as a damaged champion, not as a flanker, okay? Sky isn't that great at flanking, unless you have an off-tank with you 24/7. That's when she becomes a good flanker. Okay, good, not great. Now, so many options to kill Raum. BK just makes Raum cry, okay? So many options, and people still fear him in lower elo. When you see someone picking Raum, pick a counter for him. Half the roster counters him. In general, even though he is the third best off tank, the number 1 is Khan, number 2 is Ash, some people switch him up, and number 3 is Raum. Well, the thing is, you don't first pick him, you don't second pick him. You wait until the enemy has not picked counters for him. As a matter of fact, Ayo can counter him with a stun randomly if she, if you're not running Moonlight's Garden, and you wait for him to dash and then tell Luna to, you mark him with an arrow, you're just going to stun him with that stun and stop him anyway. So many counters to Raum, and still people fear him. Let's go ahead and change to Raum and show you his talents. Now, this is just Khan's shout, Khan's battle shout. It heals your allies for 1000 actually. It's sad. Okay, Earth Splitter is bad because simply you don't just pick this if the enemy has CC. Now, why did you pick Raum in the first place if the enemy has 2 CC sources that can stop you, or 2 of your counters? Why would you even pick Raum? This is why you don't run this, because you don't run on Raum in the first place. Enforcer is your go-to talent because of the 50% reduced damage. Now, you want to be able to play around CC. This is the loadout you play around CC with. You need Chronos 3 to be able to bully the enemies so hard as Raum. Why? Well, simple enough. I'm just gonna buy Chronos and we're gonna go on a stroll right now. Oh, I don't have credits for it. Well, anyways, the cooldown has been reduced from 15 seconds, since we have tier 2, to 12 seconds. Okay? Because we have reduced it with Chronos by 3 seconds, actually. Now, the card that I'm talking about, which is Harbinger, reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds, and this is a non-flat cooldown reduction. It's not gonna reduce the efficiency of Chronos. So once we dash, 12 seconds and then 6. Well, we reduced it by 5. Now, once you have Chronos 3, you're gonna have your dash ready each and every 5 seconds. So what do you do actually when you play Raum with Chronos 3? Well, simple enough. You engage with the first dash. You get grabbed or rooted or whatever else cancels your dash. You use your DR sources to live for those 5 seconds. And then you dash out in time. Okay, that's how you run with Raum correctly. That's the way to play around CC, and it's only one CC source. You don't want Raum versus 2 CC sources. Don't pick Raum when there are counters for him that can really ruin your day. And remember, you need Chronos 3 in order to be effectively, well, still fighting against CC. Okay? This means you need to amass credits. This is why you see Raum, after a successful push, stand on the payload, because the payload gives you credits. Okay, just standing on it or contesting or whatever, it gives you credits that Raum will need, because you don't start with Chronos, you start with Cauterize. Okay, no matter how much value you're gonna get out of Chronos, please get Cauterize 2 at least, no matter what the enemy healer is. Okay, wait until late game to get Cauterize 3 if you need this item. Okay, on tanks. That's Raum. That's all there is to Raum. Counter him. If you're scared of him, stop being scared and just buy Cauterize. If your team doesn't buy Cauterize, I'm just gonna ask you, stop playing casual siege. It's not a real game mode when you're solo queuing. It's like asking to win the lottery of your team being an actual team and the enemy team being an actual team, so that you would learn something from it. Team deathmatch, no matter how hectic it is, has all the scenarios that will happen in ranked. As a matter of fact, if you can survive 4 flankers and a support in team deathmatch who are in a 5 party, if you can survive that and win, you're just gonna have an easy time playing ranked, since you've basically been playing a harder mode than ranked. Now, please understand this. If you stack 5 people in team deathmatch, you're gonna go up against at least 2 stacked grandmasters. Okay, keep queuing on team deathmatch while you're in a 5 stack. See how hard it gets. It's way more fun than ranked. Okay, trust me on this one. Even Onslaught has that same situation. Even casual siege, if you're in a 5 stack, play against those grandmasters and learn from them. Okay, that's the advantage of playing in a stack. Do it, have fun. That's the only way in playing casual siege in a 5 stack. Ruckus, why are you the free tank in the game? Not only is he an off tank, he's also a dive specific tank. You win your 1v1s against most of the backliners in the game when you jump on them. Your time to kill on them is lower than theirs to kill you. And if you are so good at landing headshots, and of course you're gonna be like point blank range anyway, since you're gonna be playing this talent, Aerial Assault, well, you're just gonna win. Okay? The problem is, Ruckus is by far the least new player friendly tank in the game. Okay? Please watch Rubu's map knowledge guide on Ruckus and watch how he distributes the points on his dash increase card. I don't have good loadouts for Ruckus. I just run with this one most of the time, since I only play Ruckus on vertical mobility maps, and I really like having it at 5. because I want to dive, and I want to dive successfully. Now this is a bad loadout. Please get the good loadouts from Rubu. And it's not one, it's map dependent. Watch his guide, okay? These two are meme builds that I use when I'm playing 1v1s against my friends. This has an issue that was explained to me recently, which is your damage reduction from your advance, which is your dash, does not stack with the DR from this, and 2 dashes don't stack and 2 missile launchers don't stack. I don't understand this completely, I might be wrong, but please ask an expert or Ruckus if you want to play Ruckus in the first place, okay? Keep in mind the DR doesn't stack in some way or some form. Please learn it from someone that actually knows how to play Ruckus, not from me. And this is my meme build for when I by mistake play solo, casual, quick play siege mode, and I pick Ruckus for some reason. Okay, this is what I go for since I want to be able to do something. And I still don't stand on the point even though I name it point tank. I don't. I always go and off tank anyway. And it's bad. I win games with it, but that's just because it's casual. Okay, most people treat casual as training mode and don't take it seriously. They just test out their own loadouts and playstyles. That's all.
Capture the objective!
Twice the carnage. Speaking of killing sprees, we've got one coming up.
Healing. Need healing. Need healing. Need healing.
Do not trifle with me.
Ruckus to the rescue.
Eject. You must win.
God, they're firing on us.
Hopefully they don't miss. Must I do everything?
Attack the objective.
Please do something with sustaining damage. You must win.
Do not rest.
Bring it out, big guy. Ruckus to the rescue. God, they're firing on us. Enemies on the left flank. Eject. Eject.
Please do something with sustaining damage.
Zip line.
Surprised.
Shalin was a bot, Ceres was a bot. We had like at least those 6 solo kills. And we did top, next to top damage, well, okay, whatever. Terminus. Well, we've already explained things on Terminus, but I need to explain why this talent is utterly useless. Okay, let's just go ahead and use it. But read this first. Reduce the damage you take by 20% only while you're at or below 40% of your health. You need to buff this with the HP card. Okay, so let's just go ahead and use a bad loadout and edit it. Okay, I need more health to gain more value because 40% will change with my HP. Okay, it's related to my maximum health. So with this, I'm not gonna be gaining that much value. Okay, I'm just gonna show you, and this is gonna take some time. I'm gonna walk here and I'm gonna die to the bots. Okay, and I'm gonna do it in two cases. One, without taking into consideration this card, which reduces your damage even further by 20% based on how many charges you have. Okay, so basically let's just summon the bots and die without the card. This is just the talent on 4150 HP specifically. Okay, let's live. Well, that was 7 shots from Cassie for me to die only using this talent on 4150 HP. Now, if you use the card with it, remember, diminishing returns exists. Okay, we're just gonna die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We survive 8 and die on the 9th shot. Without the card's effect, without having 4 charges, you're going to die at 7 shots. You live through the first 6 and then the 7th kills you. So let's go ahead and edit the loadout and show you the maximum value. Okay, we've seen nearly the minimum. Just let's look at the maximum, including the card, which is this one, that's gonna be affected by diminishing returns. So I'm gonna remove everything else just to maximize the possible damage reduction, even with diminishing returns. Okay, this is not a good loadout. Let's just go ahead and do that. So we need the charges first, and that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Really? Like, really? After we've wasted so many points, we just took one more shot? Really? This is sad. I'm just gonna use a different talent on a loadout that doesn't even have the DR card, which is a bad card, by the way. Don't use it. Use this instead. Okay? Let's see how many shots we take. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the same. It's literally the same. The same thing as running and dying. Oh my god. This is sad, okay? This is why Undying is a throw talent. I'm gonna need to explain to you why these two are ran. If there is an enemy Raum and your team does not have any CC sources to counter him and you've picked Terminus, this is a stun. This will stop Raum. Okay? If you bonk your head against a low ceiling, you will stun anyone instantly without being open for damage, like Term usually is. Please learn to use your jump, your shadow fall. Because if you use it out in the open, everyone's just gonna shoot you and you'll nearly die instantly. Okay? Please, don't just use it randomly. Sometimes you're better off not using it anyway. Okay? If you're engaging someone, then yes. If you're using it for vertical mobility, then yes, use it. Other than that, keep your shadow fall always ready for use. Don't use it in the open for some extra damage or a slow when you're not running crush. Okay, even when you're trying to stun someone, you stun them, but the others have had enough time to at least get you down to like 500 HP or something. So the time you pick this is against Raum, for example, or when you need that stun to secure the kill on some annoying backliner. Of course, it's only 1 second. That's kind of sad, but still, it kind of is. Well, there are situations where you can run it. Now, we've seen that this is a throw talent. We've demonstrated that. We're just going to look at decimation. Now, what this does is basically, if someone's feeding your siphon, you're going to be dealing a lot of damage. Well, how much? You have 5 shots, 4 from the 4 charges, and 1 that you get for free. That's just 500 from the extra, and if you look at the ability, well, Calamity Blast will deal 250 per blast. 5 blasts are 1250. Add that 500 from the talents, that's 1750. That's more than half a Squishy's health. As a matter of fact, if Eevee was low, for example, if she was hit by anything before you shoot her with all 5 of the blasts, she's dead. Just one thing so that you would know. Terminus is one of the only champions whose default loadout for one of his talents is actually good, and it's the decimation. I'm just gonna delete this one, just switch to it, edit it, and delete it. It's gonna say decimation now, and I'm gonna show you what it is. Let's go ahead and switch to it again. Swap, decimation, and this. It's the default loadout. This is the same as my loadout, except I've removed Wrecking Ball. This is a bad card. You don't use your Shadowfall most of the time. Okay, so the rest is actually good. It's a rare case where a default loadout is good. Oh my god, this is kind of sad. So basically, it's that 1 in a million thing. Well, maybe there's one more or two good loadouts out there, default loadouts at that, but still, please don't use them. Okay, so some people like to run this card, which will give you 16% extra movement speed when you're on off tank. Okay, so all you did was actually remove that bad card, okay, the one on the default loadout, and you've put in this card instead and removed 1 point from here to this card. This allows you with Nimble, well, Nimble is cheap right now, you really need to buy Nimble too when you're an off tank as Terminus. This is just so much utility and speed. So 21% from this, and then, well, the diminishing returns calculator and calculation are different for movement speed, so it's kind of gonna diminish a little bit more. But still, it's great to have it, because at 2 charges, this is not gonna be affected by diminishing returns. It's at 3 and 4 charges that it will be affected. Okay? You still want to run this card,
The Martyr's Relic.
this one, when you're against spam like Dredge and Vivian, who will most likely be dumb enough to keep shooting your siphon anyway, because I don't understand the principle of why people keep shooting your Terminus's siphon. Okay, I might show you some clips if I have the time for it in the video. Now, I've already explained why you only run Thanks Grandpa, but I'm just gonna remind you of it anyway. It was in the intro. So basically, your shield is only 500 health without the talent. That's one shot from anyone in the game. Any damage or flanker will just instantly erase your shield. That's why you cannot consider running Field Study, because it requires the shield to be up, which it won't be. Now, Direct Current is kind of sad because at double the range, the enemy might just as well break the line of sight and remove your Nullify, rendering this talent useless, which is the case sadly in most situations. If you're gonna be hugging them to prevent them from running around corners, then why are you running this? Always run this if you, in the first place, pick Torvald. Torvald is not in a good spot right now. The idea that we need to talk about is what you need to have on his loadouts. You need these 5, at least these 5. Okay, why? Well, simple enough. If you're running against Khan, you might want to run this loadout and have an alternative for it that does not have ammo. Actually, it might be better off for me to explain the ammo in a bit. So let's just go ahead and say this. When you see Khan dashing towards you, you silence him. His dash and his grab doesn't activate. You've rendered his talent useless. His cooldown has started. He did nothing. You basically bully Khan with this, since your silence will stop him in his tracks. And while he's silenced, not only is he gonna take damage, he's so open to taking damage from your allies, and you're always with someone as Torvald. You don't go alone as Torvald, okay? And please keep this at 5 in all of your loadouts. Now, let's talk about the ammo. This is why there are 2 loadouts here. If you're with Androxus, for example, 6 ammo is his default magazine size, or well, revolver chamber size. So you reload for him each time you use protection. This is great. He doesn't have to reload or, well, let's say worry about ammo, okay? No ammo. If you're running with Maeve or Moji, you don't need ammo because Maeve doesn't have ammo. She doesn't reload. If you, well, this is not a real situation, but if you protect Grover, Grover doesn't have ammo. So keep that in mind, okay? Now, for example, I run this when I'm with Moji, for example, just because this enables Moji in somewhat, it somewhat enables Moji in higher elo games. All that it's about is me giving that Moji healing while they're in their barrier, which will not be affected by Cold Rise. Not affected. This will be affected by Moji's Symbiotic. Okay, the card that gives them more healing while they're low. And this gives them more speed. And I got my cooldowns all the time since Moji's gonna be getting eliminations. Okay? So basically, this is a loadout for when I wanna play with Moji. In a duo, specifically. You need that Moji to know how to play Moji in the first place. Now, this one is kind of the same as this one, but it has 1 point on ammo for some reason. Okay? It's just a little bit different, like moved 1 point from here to here, but that's it. You need these 4 at least, okay? Keep those on you all the time. Now the fillers such as this one, you don't need it. Find something better, do whatever you want. That's how you're supposed to play Torvald. You might have noticed that on tanks we had less throw talents. Most of them had 2 viable talents. Some of them had all 3 viable. Okay? But still, please understand this. The way that the game works is that the off tank makes space for both the damage dealer and the flanker so that they can make plays and carry the game. If you don't have an off tank or the off tank is sitting on the point, why is that point tank, well, or off tank that's stacking on the point so smug about him dealing the exact same damage, for example, as their damage, their backline damage? Their backline damage was being pushed and flanked and harassed by the enemy team, the enemy's off tank, the enemy's flanker together. No matter what you do, you and your support in the backline are gonna die. Okay, so this is just sad. Please stop stacking on the point and do something about it. Start going on flank lanes. Follow your flanker or actually have them follow you. Shield them. Don't just hold the shield. Fight with them. Stop running. It doesn't matter if you're at 1 HP. You should always be fighting because there is someone behind you. If there's no one behind you, don't blame them for not knowing how to play the game. Instead, change your play style. Play not on the point, but around it in a way that you can still go on a flank and give utility and space to your team. Just don't overextend when you go off tanking. That's all it takes, okay? Be patient and know this. Players hate playing tanks because you cannot carry on tanks. You cannot carry, and by that I mean you can't go ahead and get doubles and triples and quadras and pentas, okay, unlike flankers, for example, or some damage champions can. All your job is as an off tank is making space for your team to make plays. You're making sure that your team is always the one with the advantage. That's off tanking. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy Paladins.